Hey guys, Fletch Football Observer here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different as I have a special guest with me today. Do you want to introduce yourself, bro?
Hiya, my name is Ethan, aka Boomboiman on YouTube. I do some gaming videos. I'm a good friend of Fletch's as well. Most importantly, I'm a Manchester United fan, which is going to be kind of important for today.
Yeah, he speaks the truth there because, of course, with me, myself being a Liverpool fan and Ethan being a Man United fan, like he said, the two clash on Sunday at Old Trafford. It's a 4:30 kickoff, and in this video, we're basically gonna be doing like a fan preview kind of thing, looking ahead to the game, discussing how our two teams are kind of in different worlds right now, and also looking at how we think the season will go for both teams, as well as, of course, the game itself. So, of course, like I mentioned, let's get a bit of background on both our teams. So, from a Man United point of view, how has your season gone so far? How have you seen it in your eyes from the transfer window to the first game of the season against Chelsea where you won 4-0, and of course going forward to the present day?
I mean, so in terms of transfer window, I was happy with the people that we brought in. Like obviously we've got Harry Maguire, you've got Aaron Bissaka, who to strengthen our defense, which we needed, and Daniel James coming in as a winger. We didn't expect him to have the start they had, but it was good to see nonetheless. And then obviously after that first game where we beat Chelsea 4-0, we're thinking, okay, our team's actually looking pretty good. But after that, you just seem to just go straight downhill. I mean,
I
like,
mean, I will I,
what
I
is it?
will jump in here and I will say that that 4-0 victory to me very much flattered you a little bit. You were very clinical on the day, and granted, any team can win on any given day as long as you're clinical, but you were very fortunate in my eyes to have not necessarily won the game. You probably did enough possibly to win the game, but I think Chelsea were a little bit hard done by on the score.
Which is fair enough. And I'd say, like, since that game, that's the one thing that we've been missing. Like, we haven't been clinical at all. I mean, I'd be surprised if I went up front myself and I managed to score a goal because this team definitely can't.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like Chelsea sort of played into your hands a little bit. They were obviously still under Frank Lampard very early on, and it was his first game as a competitive Chelsea manager. They made a few mistakes which led to your goals, but like I say, you were clinical enough to put those chances away, and Chelsea did have chances, but they didn't quite find their shooting boots. And of course, in a different kind of topic, they have definitely found their shooting boots right now. But then going forward, the second game of the season was a 1-1 draw with Wolves. You then lost, I believe, to Crystal Palace. You went on to get a few mediocre results in between. But the ones that really stand out the most was the League Cup 1-1 draw, which was almost very close to humiliation for your team. The 1-1 draw with Arsenal. But you also did manage to pick up a 1-0 victory over Leicester as well. Just want to get your thoughts on how the inconsistent start to the season is. Just for another bit of background, you currently sit going into Sunday in 12th, 2 points off of relegation, but that doesn't completely tell the entire story, does it?
No, 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 no. I mean, like, obviously, we've only got, is it like, what, 8 games gone or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 points off relegation is something that I never thought I'd say. I don't want to say, but it's the reality of the situation right now. And it's just like, I don't know, like, I feel like I said in the start, like, we just haven't really been, like, obviously, since the Chelsea game, where obviously we've been finishing our chances and stuff like that, we just haven't really looked at the races, to be fair. And it's just, I don't know. It's a tricky one to think about
But I will.
because you look at the team.
Go on.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
go on. Go on.
Yeah, because you look at the team and you think, okay, you've got a decent defense, midfield. If you leave Pogba, it's kind of weak, but well, obviously there's that, and then the forwards. On the day, yes, but sometimes no. And decent enough to be in a higher position than we are. But the fact that we are in 12th is, I don't know.
But I will say,
I wouldn't say not surprising, but it's.
I will say as well though, like it doesn't completely tell the entire story as well, to the extent of the outside of Liverpool at the top of the table and Watford bottom of the table in the next couple of games, everyone between 2nd and 19th is very close right now. Like, everyone has had such a rather inconsistent start to the season that one victory is literally catapulting you up the table a good 5 or 6, maybe 7, 8 spots. And it's just because everyone has been as good or as bad as each other, depending on how you look at it. It's basically so close right now. And usually it's a bit weird because it's normally about the 8th, 9th, 10th game of the season where the table begins to take shape and that you can start to tell, okay, so this category of teams are going to be challenging for the top 4 spots, this category of teams are going to be challenging for the Europa League spots, and this category of teams are going to be trying to fight relegation. But right now, it's so very much up in the air that, you know, like I say, you could, if you win on Sunday, God, I hope you don't, of course, but if you win on Sunday, you obviously could leapfrog a bunch of teams and possibly back in the top 4 race or something. It is very early on, like you say.
I know, man. It is a weird season in that respect, and obviously, like, the other side of the coin is obviously if we do win on Sunday, which in honest opinion, I'd be very surprised if we did. But if we do win on Sunday, then obviously that actually pegs you back and gives everybody else a chance to catch up, and then the table to close up a little bit. So there's obviously that to think about as well. But then on the other side of the coin, if we do lose, you end up like, depending on what the other teams play, like Man City and whatever they do, you could end up 11 points clear already without even having like 10 games under the belt, which is kind of scary as a Man United fan. Let's be honest.
It's pretty incredible. And of course, I'd love it, but I still wouldn't be thinking, oh, we're there home and dry yet, because a lot of football is still to be playing. But just getting your thoughts on the Liverpool United game in general, this normally is a game where whatever sporting network you're watching it on, they know it's England's biggest game in the calendar of football, in English football. Do you still see it that way? Do you still see this as being the biggest game in English football?
Well, obviously Liverpool have always been our traditional rivals, so I say it. I think it is the biggest game, but it's starting to like to dwindle down because like I remember the games over the past few years between United and Liverpool haven't always been like the blockbuster everyone's like shaped out to be. I mean, there's been like,
yeah, they've been massively overhyped,
draws
haven't
and
they?
stuff, and it's not been that entertaining.
They've been massively overhyped, haven't they? I mean, I would often refer to it as like the new Call of Duty game, in the sense that every single year the new Call of Duty game looks amazing by its trailer, but when it comes to the actual substance of it, it's not as good as what it was hyped to be.
Yeah, and I can completely see that. And the comparisons with Call of Duty are actually kind of relevant because obviously, like a few years ago, like obviously this is personal opinion speaking, but Call of Duty back then was the game. But nowadays, like, okay, the next one does look kind of decent, but obviously that's another subject entirely. But I can understand where you're coming from that, and it's just this game. It's like with obviously our form and going into it, and obviously your form with your 100% record and everything, it's tricky, but it can be one of those fixtures where form goes out the window.
It is. It is essentially a cup final, because there should be very little that both managers should be saying to their team. The occasion and the fixture should really speak for itself. You know that United fans have the history of Liverpool. Liverpool have the history of United. They both want to get one over on each other. They both want to claim bragging rights. This should be a game that speaks for itself, and very little pre-match talk should be made of this. This should basically speak for itself. So moving on then, we talked about how the game is overhyped, how your season's gone so far. One thing I didn't quite touch on though was your opinion on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer so far. Of course, when he first took over, I believe he was the right man for that right time period, taking over from Jose Mourinho, of course. Coincidentally, of course, Jose Mourinho did lose his job after the Liverpool game. Do you see that happening this week? If you say maybe you get like a 5-0 or something along them lines, kind of thrashing, or what do you see? Where do you see his future lying?
I don't know. It's like it's one of those where I don't expect it to happen, but if it does, I won't be completely shocked. Because, like as you say, like obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like in the interim manager period, he was probably. I think he picked up the most points out of anyone in that time, and obviously we had that great game against PSG, that I remember, and then after we actually signed up, it just I don't know. It's almost kind of like the players
I'd
lost their drive somehow.
I'd probably say that the last good kind of point that Solskjaer picked up, outside of wins and this season, the last time that the wheel sort of fell off, so to speak, if you wouldn't mind the Ollie at the wheel kind of thing, the wheel sort of fell off against us, I'd say, because if you remember in that game, by half time, you'd used all three of your subs. You were right there for the taking, and yet you put in this resolute defensive performance in which you just basically put 10 men behind the ball, left Rashford on the halfway line, and you basically defended everything that we threw at you. Now, granted, I will say that we were poor that day. We didn't move the ball fast enough, and I can make up a load of different kind of reasons as to why we didn't get a victory on that day. But that seemed to be the start of it. That seemed to be the start of the sort of downfall, if you like, of Solskjaer. Because before then, I mean, I will say that some of the results you got were pretty fortunate. The PSG result, I still don't think it was a penalty. You would have still won that game, but you wouldn't have obviously qualified if the penalty was gone to VAR or whatever. But like I say, I think that was probably the last decent result that you picked up. And then from there, injuries have just started to become more and more frequent. You've started to play this negative style of football. And I think that's basically been what Ollie will be judged on if he does get the sack as soon as it happens, if it happens.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like another thing that I've picked up on is like whenever you watch a Man United game and you see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, like 80% of the time he's just sitting on the seat. And like as a Man United fan, what I want to see from him is obviously I want to see him on the touchline. I want to see him bellowing directions at players, giving them advice and stuff. Because like the quality of football out there it's just not what it should be for a team like us anyway.
I mean, it's strange because you have to see it and go, he has got a lot of injuries, he hasn't got the right players in, but at the same time, you look at someone like Klopp, who when he first came into Liverpool, he had to deal with a squad that was either very underperforming or just a squad of players that just wasn't good enough. But you could still see an identity there. You could still see what he was trying to build, even with the players that he had, and he made them look better than what they actually were. Obviously, fast forward a few years, he's got rid of some of them players, he's kept some of them, and he's brought his own players in. I don't really see it happening with Solskjaer right now. It happened right at the beginning, and then it's just sort of faded away over time, and now you're just left with this sort of a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of the whole transfer thing, like I get what he's trying to do. Like he's moved like some of the deadwood quote unquote on because he's moved Damian on who wasn't really playing, but then he's moved some good players on as well. Like we should have kept Ander Herrera, and I know Lukaku's head wasn't really in it at the time, but I felt like with the lack of strikers, we should have kept him. And like with the style of football, yeah, we were playing good at the start when he was still interim manager and stuff, but ever since then, we just haven't really I don't know. We haven't really been like that classic counter-attacking team, apart from maybe the game at Chelsea where we just managed to finish our chances. Our style of play just hasn't really looked up to scratch, in my opinion. But I do think that like he's like with his vision, as he so says, like I do feel like he should be given time because obviously Alex Ferguson, you may remember, didn't have the best starts at Man United. Like we persisted with him, he won an FA Cup, and then obviously you know how the rest went.
Yeah.
Whether that will happen with Ollie, I can't see it happening on that scale anyway. But
Uh,
I feel like there should be patience.
that's fair. I mean, let's face it, Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was Manchester City's. Pep Guardiola's Manchester City or Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. So I agree with you on that. That I'm always one for saying give a manager time to adjust and adapt. But I think at the same time you have to look at other things as well. I do also think that maybe Solskjaer isn't the right man for the job in terms of what he brings to the table. But I would say that apart from maybe the board, the owners, you know, the Glazers, Woodward, them kind of people at the top of your club hierarchy, I probably would say that your team on paper, with a few exceptions, of course, probably is looking in good stead for a future manager, assuming that they get the future manager appointment correct. I just wouldn't see it at your club that they would do that, but I think with what you have, your defensive lineup so far is looking decent. You know, you brought in Harry Maguire, like you said. Wan-Bissaka is a decent right back. Lindelof may need some time to recover from injuries and stuff, but he looks solid at times from what I've seen. Luke Shaw is competent playing left back. There are probably better options out there than Luke Shaw, but I think for right now he's okay. Midfield, like you said, I think is lacking creativity, and strikers, you know, maybe selling Lukaku may have not been the best option, but I think it's more not replacing him. Liverpool had the same problem a few years ago when we sold Luis Suarez and we took a massive gamble on signing Mario Balotelli as his replacement. A gamble that I still remain to this day that we should have taken, but we also should have just gone, you know what, it's a gamble, but we also need to definitely replace Suarez. And I would say this as well, your youth system, it looks really good. Like, you've got some really good young players coming through from what I can tell, but it's just whether or not they'll be given a chance to shine this season. Through injuries, they may be forced to.
I think with the young player situations, like, don't get me wrong, they do look good, but it's just a matter of if we're definitely sure that they're ready or not. I mean, for example, you look at Tahith Chong, because he has actually featured in a few games already, but he just hasn't looked ready. And you got to remember, I think if I remember rightly, he is 21, so he is the same age as like Marcus Rashford and all those people who've had like a better start. And I'm just looking at Tahith Chong and thinking like, I don't think he's ready.
I would also say that maybe being chucked into the deep end at a young age isn't the best for every single kid. It kind of happened with Rashford a little bit, but he managed to rise to the occasion, so to speak. Plus, I look at your team and I don't see many leaders. You know, you think about the Man United of the Sir Alex Ferguson era. He had leaders in that team, whether it was the likes of Rooney or whether it was the likes of, you know, Roy Keane, Ryan Giggs, even to a certain extent like Rio Ferdinand, Edwin van der Sar, you know, great leaders like that could like put their arm around a youngster and really kind of coach him through the game kind of thing. I don't really see that. I mean, your captain is Ashley Young. Dare I say any more?
I know what you mean. It's just like you've got the more older players. Like, to be fair, like I said, I still think we should have kept Ander Herrera because he would have been a good leader for the team. And then
I think every Liverpool fan would say that they dislike him as a United player, but because of some of the things that he did on a football pitch. But I do agree with you that he did a job for your team. He did.
Yeah, I mean, Herrera's always like, you know, like he might have had a baby face, but he was a piece of work to play against.
Yeah.
So I could tell that, but yeah, obviously, like you look at who we've got left. Like in terms of experienced players, you've got Matic on his last legs.
Hmm.
Mata, I love the guy. He's a great guy, but I don't really see him as being that much of a leader. You've got Ashley Young, as you said, might be his last season because he is getting on. We have Paul Pogba. We don't know where his head is.
I mean,
And
I'd rather
then,
say Maguire's quite experienced, even though he's 26. But he's had plenty of experience, you know, playing in the Premier League for Leicester. He's been on, obviously, international duty with England. So maybe it's time to move on
I
the
mean,
captain's
that is
armband.
true. That is true, but then obviously you've got to realize as well that he hasn't really been at the club for long. I mean, like, to be fair, granted, he does look like he knows what he's doing. I'd give him the captain's armband in time, but I'd say maybe not right now. I mean, I do think De Gea might be the best captain material, but then again, goalkeepers as captains, I don't know.
I don't. I mean, if I was a manager, I don't really like goalkeepers as captains as well. I mean, it works for some players. I think it worked for Neuer for Germany. It works for Casillas for Spain or Real Madrid. But I'm not a massive fan, to be honest. I honestly do think that your captain should either be a central midfielder who has eyes on the entire game, or a centre back, a commanding, leading centre back. That's just my opinion, though.
I understand where that comes from. And then obviously you've got those players, and you look at the rest of the team. Like you've got your Rashford, your Martial, you've got further back, you've got like Wan-Bissaka, which okay, he's good, but he's still young. And then you've got obviously all the young players coming through as well. And you just look at them and you just think you really need someone to like really guide them and take them by the scruff of the neck. And I don't see anybody else in the like from the more experienced players, apart from maybe Maguire given time, capable of doing that.
Just seems too nice. I think you just need a bit of ruggedness, and that's always one thing I've always held against Solskjaer. By the way, he comes across as a really nice guy and everything, but you know, I just think sometimes, like a bit like Ferguson, you just need to sort of, you know, find a balance between being everyone's best mate and also being a ruthless manager that wants to win and will take nothing else but a win.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is you don't exactly see Solskjaer clipping a boot in David Beckham's face, do you?
Nope. I mean, I've not heard any story like that so far. I mean, it might be different on Sunday if we put about 4 past you, but but talking about Sunday, how do you see the game going? How do you see your team lining up? Because remember, you are going into this game with plenty of injuries. Some are definitely out, some are doubtful. How do you see your team lining up, and how do you see your team going about the business on Sunday?
Okay, so I've heard that De Gea is probably not going to make Sunday, and
Yeah,
Pogba isn't as well.
which all stems for a goalkeeping masterclass from Romero, which is typical.
Like, to be fair though, Romero has always, like, 90% of the time, Romero has been good when he's been called upon. So
Yeah.
the fact that De Gea is out doesn't, like, stress me out too much, because I do think Romero is one of the best backup keepers, period,
I think
like,
he's
in the world right
I think
now.
he's one of the best in the Premier League right now. Definitely, I'd go along with that. Hasn't really put a foot wrong from what I've seen of him. Of course, there's no Paul Pogba for your lot. There might be no Wan-Bissaka. There might be no Luke Shaw. There are a lot of people that are doubtful for your game, which, if you're a fantasy football manager, then probably would make staying away from Man United players
Yeah.
your sort of goal. But you know, you do have other players. Martial might be back for this game. How do you see it going if he does come back into the team, or will Solskjaer throw him right into the deep end straight away?
I feel like, obviously, because we are kind of thin on the ground right now, if Martial is ready, I'd expect him to start.
Interesting. Because, I mean, the one thing that has helped your team out so much in the past, I mean, we've talked already about how this game doesn't really live up to the hype, because the usual, you can kind of predict how this game will go from previous years. Liverpool will dominate possession, they'll look to attack, but you'll just sit back, you'll sit deep, you'll try and thwart the likes of our front three. You'll stop Firmino from finding space. You'll stop Salah and Mane from running at you and finding little pockets of space in behind. And then you'll try and hit us on the counter attack. And of course, with the three up front that you possibly could have on Sunday, the Rashford on the right, I guess, with Martial up front, and then Dan James on the left. Dan James, by the way, who is absolutely rapid. Of course, it does kind of leave us open a bit to counter attack, and that's what kind of worries me a little bit. Obviously I'll back Liverpool all the way, and I'll say right now that in my Premier League preview show, which you can also watch on the channel, I backed Liverpool, I think, to win 3-1. But at the same time, I also said that a United draw might not be out the question, because I think we will score. I don't think you will outscore us, in the sense that you probably could get a goal on the counter attack because of the pace you have and the pace you possess. But like I say, I don't think I see you outscoring us.
I know, it's just like, obviously, you said that in the previous years gone by, games tend to be like kind of cagey with you, obviously like trying to like bombard us with attacks and us sitting deep and stuff. But the counter attack that we do have like this season might hurt you if you manage to get a good ball in for midfield, because we do have. I think our midfield will most likely be McTominay, Pereira, and then possibly Mata. And I think like a couple of those players like do have the ability to get the long ball, like not in terms of Paul Pogba by any means, but like every once in a while they'll be able to find a decent ball through like that splits the defense. If our attacking three, if it is that attacking three on Sunday, is at the races, they'll be able to pounce no problem on that.
I think,
But
I think majority of your approach and your lineup does actually depend on whether Martial is fit to play. Mainly because you said there in your midfield that you'd play Pereira, Mata, and McTominay, and you don't really have a recognised right winger. And of course, Solskjaer likes to play this 4-2-3-1 going into a 4-3-3 kind of thing. And all I can think of on Sunday is, without a recognised right winger, Andy Robertson is going to have the freedom of the left-hand side. And I can't see us not using that. And obviously with the kind of delivery that he does deliver, I can't see us not at least getting at least one goal from a delivery from him.
And in fairness, that I probably wouldn't be surprised at that, because obviously you've got Andy Robertson, like obviously he likes to go forward and stuff, and then I'm gonna guess I'm right, but we're probably gonna have to use Ashley Young, because obviously, as you said, I think Wan-Bissaka is suffering with illness right now.
If he doesn't play,
so
but
probably
then
will be Ashley Young right back, and he's gonna have a hell of a job.
And again, like I said though, you might have Luke Shaw. It might not be ready for the game, so let's just assume then that Shaw and Wan-Bissaka are both out. Are you playing Dalot? Is it at right back or?
It would either be Dalot, like it'd be actually on Dalot most likely, but whether who's at right back or left back, I can't really say, because they can both play either.
Fair enough. Any chance of seeing possibly a youth player, maybe like a Mason Greenwood or Tahith Chong, or who's the other one's name that escapes me?
I'd say if Martial isn't fit to start rather, then we'll most likely see Greenwood. As for the others, we might see.
Although if I remember correctly, Greenwood might be injured as well. You've got a lot of injuries.
Well,
I mean,
but okay.
This should be a game that I can't see us losing this game, but at the same time, because obviously how everything happened last season at Old Trafford, I genuinely also I'm a little bit worried in the back of my mind that you'll just grind out a dull 0-0.
That is true. That is true. And it's like I don't know. Like at defense, like we'll probably line up like as a centre backs. We'll probably line up with Maguire and Lindelof. And like I do think like obviously we haven't actually kept like a lot of clean sheets and stuff so far. But I do think those two, like given time, will start to form a pretty decent partnership. I think this game will
I
be
think
the big test for
I
those two.
think it's just consistency. I mean, I remember when Lindelof first came to Man United, and he was like Bambi. Like he was like deer in the headlights. He didn't look comfortable on the ball. He didn't like the physicality, of the English game. And then he got
He
injured.
did look very
And then he
shaky.
got injured, didn't he? And then he came back and he looked stronger. He looked more confident, and he quickly became one of your starting centre backs. And then it was just a question of who do you play alongside him. And you had plenty to choose from at the time. You know, Chris Smalling before he went to Roma, Phil Jones before he
Oh God.
turned terrible. And I was wishing that he would play on. I'm wishing that he plays on Sunday, but I think he's also injured. Um,
Thank God.
you know, Marcus Rojo, who I've never seen as a competent defender at all. And then, of course, Eric Bailly, but he's constantly injured too. So getting Maguire in was probably a pretty good shout for you a lot, especially because it stopped Man City from getting a centre-back. And I think Maguire would probably be possibly a better defender if he was under Pep Guardiola, to be honest with you. But, you know, thank you for that. But no, in all seriousness, like, that's just the way I see it. That's just the way I see it from the outside looking in, kind of thing. That Lindelof just needs
Yeah.
to have that consistency alongside the rest of them.
And then also you have to remember that we do have Axel Twanzebe back, and
Oh yeah,
obviously remember he helped for Villa, helped Aston Villa to get their promotion into the Premier League. So I don't think he's one that you can count out either. Like maybe obviously I'd say he's like behind Maguire and Lindelof. I'd say obviously with Smalling being loaned out to Everton right now and everybody else
um,
either being on the treatment table or not good enough. I'd say he's our third choice for centre
I
back.
mean, with you saying Twanzebe there, I completely forgot about Twanzebe, and it just made me think that maybe Solskjaer, maybe as an act of desperation, maybe as a bit of a tactical bit of genius. We discussed as well the injuries you might have at fullback. Is there possibly a chance then that Solskjaer could, I don't know, say go to a back three on Sunday with wing backs, of course?
I don't. I don't know. I mean, he's been pretty sold on this 4-3-1, 4-3-3 situation formation rather. So I don't think it's likely that I'll switch to three at the back, but it's something I like to see. But the only problem is, obviously, it's not something that we do very often. So it would be kind of like a baptism of fire to start with a three at the back, obviously against Yola, who are going to be very, very attacking from the get go.
I mean, I'd like it if you played five at the back, because then we could really kind of push Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold forward, and I mean that's kind of my worry, because down our right hand side is a bit of a weakness point in our team. I'd say it's the only real weakness that we have down the right hand side. Sometimes Trent Alexander-Arnold can be a little bit suspect positional wise. Um, and that's where I think that you can hurt us, especially if the pace of Rashford or Dan James or even Martial, if he is going to be playing on Sunday, gets in there. I do feel like you can create a couple of chances there. Um, but like I say, I don't see you outscoring us, to be honest. I feel like if you went gung ho with us and if you tried to match us goal for goal, we'd easily tear you apart. If you tried to play how I imagine you were going to play, which is basically defensive, strong, resolute, and try to hit us on the counter attack, you have every chance of possibly nicking a point.
That's what I think, and I think like with our front three, as you mentioned, I think they have the ability to interchange. Now, I don't think they actually um like swap around like that often, like where they play.
They're not
Like
as
I'm
interchangeable as our front
thinking,
three, for example.
yeah, I mean like you look at our front three, you're thinking more. You've probably got Martial down the middle, then whether Rashford and James play down either left or right. I think I'm more likely to see Rashford on the left. I think, but
I mean, I remember a couple of years
I.
ago, he gave Trent Alexander-Arnold a torrid time. I think you won 2-1 that day, and I think Rashford got both goals, and I think both goals were pretty much similar, where he basically gave
Oh, I do remember that.
Arnold a
And then
torrid time. But since then though, he's come along leaps and bounds. He's been absolutely phenomenal.
And then you have to remember, obviously, Rashford scored that great goal in the England match the other day. So obviously, he's finally got one under his belt. What if this brings the confidence back up, like just in time for this game, and like I don't know, maybe he can actually pull
It's,
something. We'll have
it's
to see.
entirely possible, but I don't see him being fully match fit. He's a 21-year-old kid that's been playing every single minute of every single game, seemingly including the England games. And let's face it, a couple of weeks ago for the Arsenal game, he was being told, everyone was being told that he was going to be out for a few weeks with groin injury or something along them lines. I don't see him being match fit, and I don't think he's been properly match fit for quite a while.
I do. Thanks for bringing that to attention because I did forget that he came. I think he came off in that game, but yeah, you have to remember that obviously with it since he's been thrown into the team, like he's played a lot of game time considering that he's only 21, and like it is kind of worrying because that does like give him a little bit of grounds to like obviously get start picking up injuries and stuff like that.
Exactly. I have a horrible feeling. I don't want to see it happen, obviously, because even if he is a United fan, a United player, it's still not nice to see a player get injured as often. I have a horrible feeling that he'll probably be burnt out by the time he's like 26, 27. And, as a Liverpool fan, I can say that we saw it with Michael Owen. Michael Owen was possibly one of the best teenagers of his generation, possibly one of the best teenagers of all time. He was basically like what Mbappe was when he was 18. And of course, then he left Liverpool to join Real Madrid, started picking up plenty of injuries, and then his career completely fell apart. Came back to England with Newcastle, injuries constantly, like tampered with his seasons there, and then obviously moved to your lot, became disliked by Liverpool for obvious reasons. Probably only known by United fans for being in a United shirt for scoring that winner against Manchester City in the Manchester derby them years ago in the 97th minute, even though 4 minutes of added on time were given. But yeah, basically I do sort of worry in that respect because I do feel like if Solskjaer keeps on throwing him like he is doing just into every single game, the kid's going to be burnt out.
And obviously, the thing is that hasn't. It's obviously not just been happening with Solskjaer. It was a thing with Mourinho was losing a lot. Van Gaal obviously didn't have a lot of time with him, but once he started, he was Rashford is getting a lot of game time because obviously I think that was because Martial was injured at the time, and we just needed someone in there. And the thing is as well, obviously you've got Mason Greenwood coming in. Like he's only just turned 18.
He's been killing it in the youth
obviously
system.
he's looking good. He's turning up in the 21s and stuff, but I don't want to see him get burnt out as well.
Especially because with how your squad's going anyway, you're very thin in very key areas, I'd say.
That definitely. Like it doesn't help with our transfer activities this summer in terms of who we sold, but I'd say like potentially in the January transfer window, we just crying out for another midfielder, maybe even two. Maybe someone up front.
I wasn't going to talk about it because I feel this was like a different subject, but you bring up the January transfer window. I do feel like your board can't just go throwing money at the problem, especially if Solskjaer isn't going to be long term. Let's say Solskjaer's next few months and things still haven't properly picked up in terms of results. Do they stick? It's a question of then, do they stick with him? And if they do, then by all means give him money. But don't just give him money in January and then fire him in the summer, because then you're going in the constant cycle that you've been going on since Fergie left.
Exactly. I think like the next like 5 or 6 games are where Solskjaer's like Man United job is decided. Like I think like if we come out of these like next few games, we still haven't seen any signs of improvement. I do think he'll be gone like by about Christmas time.
Big shout, especially because, like I say at the beginning of this video, Jose Mourinho was pretty much given the boot at about Christmas time, conveniently, when Liverpool beat United by 3-1, and Xherdan Shaqiri got 2 on that day. So I guess final question, just to wrap this up then. Score predictions. What are you going with?
Score prediction? I'm going to be a little bit adventurous. I'm going to go 2-2.
Any particular goal scorers, or you just want to give...
Well, I think... Mane has been on form for your side. I do think he'll get at least one of them. For our goals, I reckon, I don't know, maybe possibly Dan James or even Martial. One of those two will definitely get one of them, I reckon.
Fair enough. As I said in my Premier League preview show, I am going with Liverpool to win 3-1. I think Mane and Firmino will both get on the score sheet. I will say that I think for Liverpool to stand any chance of properly going to town and smashing this lot, Liverpool need to get a very early goal. They need to silence the crowd with an early goal within the first 20 minutes. And then from there, who knows. But if we get to like half time, the way that we've been playing recently has been grinding out results when we haven't been playing particularly great. But we always manage to grind out a result. So I'd say that 1-0 would probably be a score if we get to half time at 0-0. But again, I will caveat myself again, and having said that, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's another 0-0. Genuinely wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either, to be fair.
No. Like I say, this has been a game that's been overhyped for the past few years in particular, and the majority of the time it just hasn't lived up to the billing that is put forward. So I've gone with 3-1. You've gone with 2-2. I guess that wraps it up for this time. Thanks very much, man. This has been great.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Hopefully we can do this again like sometime in the future. Maybe for the reverse fixture or something.
Oh, definitely for the reverse fixture. And if anything happens in between that's Man United related, I'd love to have you on again and we can talk about it some more, because this is just what I love to do.
Thank you very much.
No problem, dude. Do you want to plug yourself before we go?
Yeah, so in case you don't wondering, like with the game The Last of Us, I normally play like the online for it called Factions. I make videos on it and stuff like that. I do other games from time to time, but if you're interested, check out obviously Boomboiman on YouTube, and you'll find me there. But
you're also on Twitter as well, right?
In any other terms, what's that?
You're also on Twitter as well, right?
Oh yeah, I am on Twitter as well. If you follow us at Boomboiman, I'll genuinely talk about Last of Us and then some other stuff from time to time as well. But
I'll make sure to
apart
put
from that,
both,
I guess that's all me.
I'll make sure to put both links in the video description down below so you can check him out there.
Appreciate it, man.
No problem at all, dude. And of course, now this wraps up this video. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. If you'd like to like this video and subscribe if you're new, both things will be greatly appreciated. Thank you to my guest, Ethan, aka Boomboiman. I've been Fletch, he's been Ethan. This has been the Liverpool versus Manchester United preview show for Sunday. Come on, Liverpool. Don't let me down.
Come on, United.
Don't let me down. Please don't let me down. Otherwise, I'm not going to hear the end of it at work. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you and speak with you all again soon in another video.